Castle Rock.
Oh, yeah.
That was okay.
That got picked up for another season, too.
I saw
Wait,
that,
it
too.
did?
Kind of an anthology.
No. Really?
Uh-huh.
They really kind of missed the boat on that one in the first season in terms of being able to make...
Hit record.
I already have hit record. We're already going. So this is in between. We're already kind of talking about what are we each watching right now. The rules of in between. If you got the kiddies
there are
with
no
you,
rules.
Our one of our favorite fans, Joe Meeb, who put out a wonderful picture, Richard. I'm sure you didn't see it on the Twitter feed when we launched the current Escape.
Yeah.
Apparently, Joe has a brand new baby.
Oh.
And the picture was, here's the baby, and here's Dad holding his phone that says the indoctrination begins, and it's Escape from the Minute of the Apes. So he's letting his kid listen. Hey, Joe, I know the kid is just a baby, but, you know, Uncle Richard, Uncle Sean, and Uncle Todd may cuss today, so the kids go away.
Oh,
is that not
that's a cute photo.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
I saw that, and I was like, that's my favorite. Aww. So we're going to start somewhere that we are not going to give a review. We're not going to talk about elements of this movie, but Sean and I both recently saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. I did not see it.
Richard's not. And that's part of why, as a friend, we're going to be respectful of him. We're not going to talk about it.
Drink real quick.
Your ginger
as
ale?
It came up, Sean and I had differing opinions of the film. Sean liked it. I did not. I liked 7/8 of it.
It's a very, very specific
it is.
fraction.
Trust me, and it really comes to the point here. When it came to that last eighth of the film, I went, oh, my God. And this is what I said to the guys. I said that as I watched it, and I have a lot of respect for Quentin Tarantino, but as I watched it, I began to think he is the more talented M. Night Shyamalan. Where every film you go into him, there are certain beats and certain things that are going to occur and how they're going to occur.
Let's rewind just a little bit.
Yep.
Because you suddenly brought in M. Night Shyamalan in this middle of this kind of analogy of why you think 1/8 of Tarantino's films are not good.
No, just this one. I like some films. Just this one in particular.
Before we started the podcast, I specifically said I gave up on Inglourious Bastards because it was a point where the movie became so Tarantino that I checked out because I'm like, okay, it's a Tarantino character doing Tarantino things. There's nothing really interesting. I don't care where it's going to go. It's just going to be him being kind of the big and bravado and over the top. And keep in mind, I love a lot of Tarantino, but there's a point where it's like a comic book writer needs a fucking editor to bring it back down so it's watchable. Otherwise, it's all ego. And that's when you said...
And it is why I said that. But what I mean by this is I think that M. Night Shyamalan is a good filmmaker that falls too hard to his conventions every time. And
You're waiting for the twist.
That's right. You go to his films and you go, there is a twist coming, and therefore the twist is not surprising. Now, I think the reason Twilight Zone could get away with that, it was a 30-minute show. You knew what it was about. It was very compact, and you got there.
You knew everyone was almost a little bit of a moral play, too.
Right. But with his, he tries to masquerade in this idea that there's a twist. I think then with Tarantino, what he does is he falls too hard to the praise of violence or things that are over the top exaggerations. Did you ever finish Inglourious Bastards?
No, I gave up like 30 minutes into, I'm like, I can't deal with it. It's just the character is just being
so the very
profane
end of it
and being over the top and being super violent. I'm like, okay, cool. The premise was interesting. Like,
I agree.
All of his premises are set up to great, and depending on the story, like Jackie Brown, you just kind of follow all the way to the end. But there's a point where he just became all about him being flashy and showy and him, and I'm like, I don't care.
And I think that Inglourious Bastards goes to a point that's similar to Hollywood. And I'm not going to say either. Since you've not seen it, I'm not so much I don't want to spoil Bastards. I don't want to spoil the other so you can see it. But I think that they both go to a point where he chooses to go and flip the story where it's like, why? What was that? Why are you doing? And it just, for me, becomes exactly what you're saying. It becomes too much about him and not about the story. And I thought with Hollywood, when I saw it, I thought 7/8 of the film, again, I was like, wow, this is a really good movie.
You know what I kind of also, you wouldn't know this, but I wish after the climax of the film, and then there's a little denouement where somebody goes over and walks over and meets with some other people. I wish there had been a follow-up scene saying what the ramifications are of what happened.
Yeah.
You know, and in Inglourious Bastards, Hitler dies. We know that, so... what happens is this world that's happening now because Tarantino also kind of ties all his movies together with little subtle clues in the background of posters, of a wanted poster for somebody that's a descendant of somebody else in another movie. I'm wondering if that is supposed to tie into this, because there's also a little scene where, Nazis being fried as part of a movie.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if there's a tie-in with that. And if there was, what happens after this movie?
Didn't he say that the movies were all tied together in the same universe,
And
recently,
a little bit to
in the
ways,
last
like-
couple of years?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like Pulp Fiction. The characters they are talking about are supposed to be the characters that are actually in Kill Bill 1 and 2. Those are the 5 women that she's talking about in Pulp Fiction, and all sorts of things.
I
tied
don't
all
believe
together.
any writer-director planned that stuff. I think they just found convenient moments to kind of put those together.
Well, I thought,
J. Michael Straczynski did.
of course, for those of you that don't know, J. Michael Straczynski is Sean's god.
Yes.
Everything comes back to that.
Yes.
But the funny thing is about Hollywood, and why I was so particular about that 7/8 is that I really, as I watched it, I thought, wow, this is the most, in many ways, un-Tarantino-like Tarantino films, because the soundtrack is not just in your face. It's not that typical choice. And so I thought, oh, we're watching a different Tarantino. No, we're not. And I
He
just
just yanks it from you at some point.
it was a taint punch.
Well, because you know what you're waiting for, and you're going, this is a movie that is X amount of long, and we have X amount of time left, and the thing that I know he is well known for has not happened yet. When's it going to happen?
Yeah.
Wait, and I'm not talking about a shot of some woman's foot being right there in the
Which
screen.
I did not know until literally Sean and another friend pointed out his fetish with feet. I've never noticed
Wait,
that.
when?
Tarantino
When did you
has-
figure that out?
I
Look
do
at
that.
all his movies.
Well, no, I know this. I just kind of find it surprising that Todd didn't think of
I've never. I don't count myself as a big Tarantino fan, so I don't watch them closely. But I do the other podcast with my friend Jeff, and he's the one that pointed out the foot thing. I was like, oh my God, you're right. And then sure enough, I sit down with Sean today, and he says,
Did you
and of
see the
course,
foot thing?
I was like, I swear to God, how have
thought
I
everybody knew
avoided
about
this?
that one thing? Okay.
Yeah, there's just a point where Sharon Tate goes to see a movie, and as she's in the theater, she kicks off her shoes and puts them up on the seat in front of her, and the camera's right there with the feet nice in the shot.
By the way, Sean and I both have our shoes off right now.
Yeah, we're both making
we're-
Tarantino
yeah.
very hard right
do
now.
one of you have Cornelius feet with your thumb sticking out to the opposite side?
Hang on.
So is there a comic book writer that is Tarantino-like in that what you were just saying, where they are so over the top, where it becomes more about them, their style sometimes than it is?
I had mentioned Frank Miller.
Yes.
Morrison?
Grant Morrison, particularly Grant Morrison right now.
Grant Morrison, you always
What is Grant Morrison writing right now?
He's writing Green Lantern.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Frank Miller, in my mind, has become so much of his style that it kind of detracts from whatever he's trying to do.
The last thing I read of Frank Miller's was it the sequel to The Dark Knight? What was that one?
The third
Well, there's
one,
Dark
the third
Knight,
sequel, Dark Knight Strikes
there's a
Again.
Dark Knight Returns, a Dark Knight Strikes Back, and
Dark Knight Strikes Again, and Dark Knight Master Race.
Yeah, Master.
I did not read Master Race. I read the
Well,
second one.
it is very Frank Miller.
It's Frank Miller without an editor, almost. Yeah.
And with Sin City, I almost like how he brings that element to it, because James Ellroy, who wrote L.A. Confidential, is the same kind of writer. Have you ever read James Ellroy?
Yeah.
Have you read his current stuff so he's gotten into this whole thing now where he loves language, and you could really, the sentences are door opened, door closed, footsteps, and it's like
Right, Hemingway.
it's like, stop it, write a sentence I can read. But it becomes, and by the end of it, you're so beaten down by him trying to impress himself that he can write 1 and 2 word sentences, that it gets in the way of the narrative. And so I think he's similar to Miller in that they both love those noir elements, but I could see how Miller could get so far over the top with that.
Man, I want to talk bad about comic book writers.
Don't tell secrets.
There's a new book out called Superman. What's it called? Superman Last? No, Superman.
Wait, Superman Year One? What are you talking about?
Yeah, Superman Year One. Is that what it's
That's
called?
Is that the one
Frank
he's
Miller
writing?
He's writing it.
The Black Label one?
John
Yeah,
Remeter's
that's
doing
Superman
the
Year
John
One, yeah.
Remeter. John Romita Jr. is doing the artwork, and John Romita has a style that he's pulled back from for this story, which is kind of nice to see him kind of play with his own style, but not be so himself. Like
Right.
it's a little more traditional with elements that are him. However, when you read the script or when you read the dialogue in the book, it sounds like Miller is giving his thoughts on what should happen, and they're being forced to actually put that as text in the book. I gotta find it.
I was about to say,
As he goes to grab
I'm
it.
glad this came up because for whatever reason I was searching something today and this came up and something I was like, I had no idea he was writing Superman. He doesn't. His sensibilities don't seem right for Superman to me.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you want from Superman. I mean, he wrote Superman in The Dark Knight Returns.
Right.
I mean,
That's true.
He wrote
That is
him
true.
as a big Boy Scout working for the government.
Very, very good point. And am I incorrect? Doesn't Miller also do artwork?
Yeah, he doesn't do.
Does he not do it anymore?
I think he's gotten like very ill,
Oh, really?
because he's not a young man by
Okay.
any stretch of the means. So I don't think he can draw anymore. I don't know. All right, Richard just
Is
pulled up
Richard
something.
pulling up the comic right now? I like the cover.
There's a couple to choose from.
All right, so Clark is in a field, right?
By the way, that's Ramita, not Remeter.
Ramita, yeah, sorry, thank you.
couldn't
So it's Frank
resist.
Miller, and this is his description.
Miller.
And now Ramita has to actually draw this out, right? And it says Clark is asleep. Ma softly reads from the Bible. Pa snores. Clark drifts away. Now he's in his dream state. It's summer again. Everything's warm and bright and happy. Nobody's looking. He can run as fast as he wants. He can do anything he wants. There's nothing holding him back. There's nothing holding him down. He can fly. Not even one dream. And now he's awake. Air's all crisp. Sounds from everywhere. Too many to sort out. His heart, it pounds. It jerks him to his feet. He breathes. How long was he asleep? Cold prairie wind. A million stars. Still in Kansas. Still on Earth. Corn stalks crack and clawed him. Here in heaven.
So they just took his rough outline and made them into captions.
Literally, it's his outline. There's no dialogue here.
Is there never dialogue?
Well, no, there's
there is
dialogue,
some
yeah.
dialogue, but there's an element to which everything sounds like he's describing
Right.
to Ramita what he wants to happen,
Right.
and they just put it
on the page.
in word balloons. Like it's maddening.
Can you just show me a page? I'm just kind of curious.
No pages for you.
I mean,
quiet,
Ramita's
John.
artwork is
no,
great.
go back to
Yeah, it is.
like
I
the
love the
description pages,
I love the
like,
reflective nature of that
the
screen
helmet.
on the helmet there.
where like just show them like that. Yeah, what you were reading. There you go. So yeah, it's all
literally he's
dialogue boxes
it's dialogue boxes that sounds like he's writing to Ramita what he wants.
shown.
And then they just put
They
it
just put
as,
it on the page
as
as well.
words on the page.
I love the artwork.
No, Ramita's fantastic.
Right.
But I don't know that I want to come back for issue 2 because it's so bad. I mean, it's
I
It's
get
only
when
3 issues.
I get when you're somebody like Miller who's had so much success that you begin wanting to try new things and see where it goes.
I have a feeling it's kind of like the same deal with Stan Lee, where as he got to the end, he was still quote unquote creating projects, which was more probably rubber stamping his name onto stuff and having other people write it. So I have a feeling this is very John Romita-y with touches of Frank Miller rather than just being Frank Miller said this is what to do.
here's a street sign, Main Street and Kansas Avenue, and the description over it is a perfect morning. And just listen to that old hound go at it. Somebody better let him out. And you, over there, step lively. It's school day. The legend of Clark Kent is growing. And then, like, not a panel later, it's back at home for all 3 of them to get washed up and put some clean clothes on and maybe get a little crying done. And the bullies are off and away for another cruel day's fun. And the teachers are scared of them. And the parents are scared of them.
There are a lot
and
of
there's
ands.
nobody's enough guts to stop them. Nobody. I mean, it's not a...
Did the sentence ever end?
Man,
Yeah, I mean, it's maddening. I can't deal with the fact that I'm reading his outline of what he wants to happen, and they're just literally putting it on paper.
And then Clark goes to school, and then the dog barks, and then the wind blows, and then a butterfly flies, and then the swing moves, and then Clark goes home, and then.
So, Ramita's great,
yeah, I
Oh,
love
yeah.
it.
and the concept behind what he's doing is interesting. But it's just he wrote an out. You said outline, and that I'm stuck in my head now.
Yeah,
So what he
that's
did.
kind of what it feels like that they.
He wrote
just-
a 2-page treatment, and they're just using that as
They
the
use
actual
all the
word.
quotes that they can on there, and that's what he gave them as the script.
How
Or
old
his-
is Miller now?
Frank Miller? He's got to be in his 70s, easy.
Possibly, yeah.
So
Maybe
what's-
that's why.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what's the last good thing he did that you remember?
Probably. Sin
Where
City
Richard is
around
looking to me
then.
like I just completely stumped him.
He's 62 years old. Oh, man, he just looks old.
Yeah, he does look old. I saw something with him not long ago. It looks
Oh
horrible.
man, we were talking about rumors and